Welcome, Lesley. Thank you very much for agreeing to talk to me this afternoon. Now, we met a long time ago, back very much at the beginning of my career, 20 odd years ago, when I was just a very junior accountant, and I believe you were a senior partner, or maybe a senior manager or a partner at that point in time.
Yeah.
What have you been doing in the meantime, and where have you ended up now?
Lots of things in the meantime. So at the time that we first met, I was the managing partner for the Midlands region of an accountancy practice. From there, I moved into a kind of a management role. So I did a CFO role, a COO role, an HR director role, and also did quite a lot of work on an acquisition strategy for that business. I then took some time out to have a small family, and then came back to the working world about 4 or 5 years ago. And initially, I was actually doing some consultancy work, actually helping a law firm with their growth strategy. And then I moved in house and took on a CFO role again, and that's the role that I'm doing now. So I'm working for Shakespeare Martineau, which is a leading law firm, and I'm their CFO.
Great. So it sounds like you've had a number of different leadership roles, and even way back when I remember you in that leadership role and being a great leader. So, what does great leadership look like to you?
So I think the most important thing for me is an ability to read and understand people. I think some people have a view that actually to be a leader, you have to be able to kind of force people to come along with you. And that's not my view at all. I think you have to be able to take people with you, but I think you have to do it in a way where they very much understand where you're going, but actually you very much understand them. I think it's about understanding people as individuals and actually being able to bring the best out in them and getting them to bring the best out in themselves as well. And I think you can only do that by listening and understanding, and actually looking for people's individual strengths. If I think about all of the people that I've worked with over the years, and the differences in their strengths, the differences in their behaviours, and actually the key thing that I've done is actually adapt my style to the individuals that I work with to make sure that I can bring out the best in them.
Mhm.
So I think kind of people and communication is a key thing, as well as having a very clear view on where you're going and being able to communicate that, but also being able to adapt and change that, and take on board suggestions and feedback from the people that you're working with, and very much act together as a team. I think it's very important to value the people that you work with, and also to make sure that all of your actions and your words marry up. I don't think you can say one thing and then act differently. People see
Mhm.
through that and they want you to be genuine and authentic.
Mm.
I think you need to do that as a leader, but you need to expect that from the people that you work with as well.
Great. That sounds very good. Very comprehensive answer there. So thank you. What do you interpret by the term self leadership? I'm sure you spent a lot of time kind of in self reflection and things as well. So what does self leadership mean to you, and how do you practice it?
That's a really tricky one, actually. So, what do I think that is? I think it's all about managing yourself, isn't it? And understanding yourself, and getting the best out of yourself. And I think for me, how have I done that over the years in a number of different ways? So, I like to read around various different styles of leadership and different examples and individuals. I've also, over the last couple of years, seen the benefits of meditation just in terms of trying to kind of quieten my mind and kind of still my thoughts and actually make me less judgmental. I think one of the key things that I think I've done over the past couple of years is to really get a better understanding of myself and actually accept and see the positives in that. So there's some great stuff that I did around Marcus Buckingham, and the Strengths Finder, and actually reading all of that, but seeing the strengths that quite often some people can see as either negatives or points that you need to work around, actually viewing it quite differently and embracing those points instead of trying to kind of spend your time on correcting the 20%, actually focus on the 80% that you are really, really good at.
Yeah.
So that for me has been great, as has some stuff that I'd listened to from Susan Cain,
Mhm.
called Quiet, a book that she'd written about introverts. So I am an introvert, although I know a lot of people are often surprised at that because I present a lot, and I do appear to be very outgoing, but actually I am an introvert. So I have spent a lot of time understanding what it is I need to actually get the best out of myself so that I can act in an extra way whilst looking after myself and making sure that I can deliver on my needs as well, and actually seeing that as a positive, what I can bring, rather than criticizing myself for what I'm not. And I've also then tried to do the same thing with the people that I work with. Who don't necessarily fit one mold and are very different. So I think it's listening to lots, reading, trying to look at examples, but actually kind of celebrating strengths.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, what kinds of signs do you look for in terms of your staff within your business? So, if you're looking for leadership skills or other kind of strengths.
Their ability to listen, their ability to listen to their teams, and their ability to understand their teams.
Mm.
So I look for people to adapt their style, to be flexible, to be clear on what needs to be delivered, and to be able to deliver things, but to do that in a way that actually they bring people with them. They have
Mm.
people bought in, and they have a satisfied and a fulfilled group of people working with them. So it's not about them as an individual looking like they're delivering everything themselves. It's actually about their ability to work with their team and actually bring the whole team forward. So it's very much about their people understanding and people management skills. Technical skills are important, but very often you can train technical skills. It's much more difficult to train that kind of inherent ability to listen, understand, and empathize with people.
Mm. Okay, thank you. So, obviously, we've experienced a lot of change in recent times. You know, we're both working at home at the moment. We were talking about the lockdown and homeschooling and things like that before. So, what further changes do you expect in terms of working practices over the next 12 months or beyond?
So I can very much see a move to more home working. So I think some firms obviously have always been very good at this and have had a much more agile approach than others. I think the ones that, particularly within the services industries, where they've been reluctant to do that previously, I think actually this has shown that more people can work from home than we originally envisaged. And I think it's taken away some of the reluctance that was there previously, because it's accelerated change that maybe some businesses had planned over a 2 to 3 year time frame, and actually that change has been accelerated within a very short period of time. I think for some individuals they've absolutely loved the experience. I think for others it's been quite difficult because it's been working from home but in a slightly strange scenario where you have children at home and you're not able to work maybe in the way that you might want to. So I think for some people there's going to continue to be a kind of an education on that working from home in a different hopefully more stable environment.
Mm.
But I think it would then very much change the role of the office. So I don't necessarily think the office is a place to work anymore. I think it'll be a place to collaborate and a place to socialise, but actually with people probably going in on only certain days of the week if they absolutely need to, but with very definitely more people working from home on a more regular basis. So I think from a kind of a structural point of view, it changes the way businesses operate. But I think also then in terms of the skill set that you need, I think you do have to refine your people management skills and also your leadership skills to be able to work remotely and still have that kind of cohesive team mentality that some people may feel it's easier to have if you have people working face to face. I think the other thing that it does also is to engender a greater sense of trust.
Mm.
You're trusting your people to work away from the office where you can't see them, you can't see what they're doing. But I think that actually should improve the relationship all round.
Mm.
I can see quite a big shift actually over the coming years, and I don't think that will change back. I think that's
Mm.
here to
Yeah. Great. So we've got this change. Things are changing, and there was probably going to be more change in the future. So, how are you personally going to lead yourself and others through this period?
So I think one of the things that we have, I suppose, played around with really is trying to get the communication right. And when I say right, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Is there that varies depending on the individuals that you work with. But I guess things that I've noticed, I no longer feel comfortable having a phone call. I need to be able to see the person that I'm talking to now. In the old world, I would have just called people and that would have been absolutely fine. And I appreciate now just how much of the communication that I do, I rely on being able to see the other person. I can pick up so much just from being able to see their face, their mannerisms, their behaviour, and it helps me to understand the person that I'm dealing with more. So I haven't done a phone call for I don't know how many weeks now. Everything is either Zoom or WhatsApp or FaceTime, so that actually I can see and I can get that feel for the person that I'm talking to. I think another thing with the finance team, we have just over 50 people in the finance team, and one of the things that we've set up over recent weeks is just a weekly coffee catch up where actually we all just join on the screen. We can talk about anything and nothing, but it's that sense of community and being able to see everybody and knowing that actually I'm interested in them. I'm interested in what they're doing and how they are, and again I can see them. So for me a lot of it is still about that connection, that connectivity, but also making sure that people can see the bigger picture. I think over recent weeks we've been so focused on the short term and the immediacy of keeping the lights on and making sure that we're still able to operate on a day-to-day basis. But the key for me really is making sure that we don't lose sight of the longer term plan, that we still got that plan, but actually the way that we work becomes much more agile. And within finance, normally we'd be in the middle of a budgeting process now. We're not doing that this year. There's no point in having a budget that we set for 12 months time because it would be like looking in a crystal ball. So instead we're very much understanding the drivers of the business, much more having much more frequent lead and lag measures. So not just looking at revenue, but actually looking at all of the early indicators and making sure that we communicate that with people and treating our team leaders and our managing directors as business people who are going to run the business for the longer term, not just for a short-term profit or a short-term impact. So I think there's quite a change in how we look at our business, which I think actually makes it much more exciting for the people in it to feel that they have some control over their destiny and that we grow and we want to support them with their plans. So I think it's very different to a traditional partnership model. And so I'm trying to drive all of that from my room at home as well. It's on all sorts of levels, but that very much I think is the way that we're going to operate going forward.
Yeah, great. So what skills do you perceive to be the most important to kind of take us through this new period of change?
So again, I think it comes back to some of the things that we talked about before. I don't think it's about technical skills. I think it's very much about communication, but about the ability to trust people, the ability to think longer term, to have an open mind, to be transparent. So I think it is all about how you deal with other people so that you can build a really kind of high functioning team that are all pulling in the same direction. And I think those are the things that inherently you would look for in the team that you work with.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Lesley, for agreeing to talk to me today and for sharing your insights. It's been really interesting catching up today.
Thanks very much for talking today.